Hi, Kevin Henry, the Group Editorial Director for Advanstar and Dental Products Report, and I'm on a Google Hangout this morning with my good friend Gary Takacs. Gary resides in the Phoenix area, and I had the pleasure of hanging out with him this past weekend at the Western Regional Dental Convention. So, Gary, thanks so much for your time this morning. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, Kevin, it's great to be with you digitally today. It was fun to see you live and in person this past weekend.
Absolutely, man. I always enjoy the time that you and I can just sit down and chat a little bit. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and just give them a little bit of background if they're not familiar with you already.
You bet. Thanks, Kevin. Well, it's been my honor to be a coach and a practice management consultant for 30 plus years. My passion, Kevin, is helping dentists develop a more profitable and enjoyable practice. One other bit of background that might be of interest to our viewers is that although I am not a dentist, I do own a practice, co-own a practice here in Phoenix, Arizona, in partnership with Dr. Paul Nielsen. He and I purchased a practice in May of '07, and that practice serves as kind of my test kitchen where I can test concepts. It's a real practice, but it serves as a test kitchen where I can test concepts and share those with my audiences when I'm speaking and my clients as well.
And I know you are constantly traveling. It seems like every time I look on Facebook, there's that Southwest Airlines picture of you heading off somewhere else. So you amaze me, man. I tell you, really.
Well, thanks, Kevin. It's a passion of mine. I love helping dentists develop a thriving practice, and I often do that by seminars and courses and speaking at meetings as well. So it's a passion of mine.
Well, speaking of meetings, obviously you and I were, like I said, we were in Arizona last week together, and that's your home base. But one of the things that you and I were chatting about a little bit is that 5 ways to really build up the whitening part of your practice. And you had some great tips, and I really do appreciate you coming on this morning to share those with our viewers. So would you just kind of launch into those 5 tips for me?
Yeah, it'd be my privilege, Kevin. The 5 tips, and these are 5 tips to grow your whitening business. And I want to start by stating that growing the whitening business is a fantastic project for any dentist because it's just a great way to grow your practice. I've found that patients who whiten their teeth become better patients, and they're more interested. They're more likely to keep their appointments. They're more likely to follow your home care instructions. They're more likely to be compliant patients. They're more likely to follow your treatment recommendations. So I like to teach my clients to grow their whitening business because it becomes a platform to grow their practice. Here's those 5 tips, Kevin. First one I want to talk about is mindset. Because before we get into tactics, we have to have the proper mindset in the practice. And it's really important for dentists and their team members to really embrace the topic of whitening, not just offer it, but really embrace it. And one of the things they can do to maintain that mindset is to establish a person in the practice that I like to call the whitening champion. Kevin, we all of our listeners and viewers will have the experience of starting a project and having it kind of fade quickly into the distance. Have you ever noticed that, Kevin?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so by having a whitening champion, the whitening champion is the person that kind of quarterbacks the whitening project in the practice. And I like to use the word champion. No one wants to have any more responsibilities, but we all want to be champions, don't we? So I like the idea of establishing someone as a whitening champion. This is the person who will keep the project front and center. This is the person that might be responsible for ordering the supplies. That person might be responsible, it could be a dental assistant, although it could be any team member in the practice that's passionate about whitening. This person will also be likely for handling the training of other team members, be responsible for reporting metrics and numbers in team meetings, and just keeping whitening front and center for the entire practice. So tip number 1 is establish a mindset where you embrace whitening as a team and maintain that focus by having a whitening champion in your practice to keep the focus active. Tip number 2 is I want to encourage you to start to take a shade match at the beginning of your hygiene appointments as a way to create interest in whitening. Kevin, very easy. It's likely the hygienist that will do that, and he or she could take a shade match and simply show the patient their current tooth shade on a shade guide so the patient has a perspective of their current tooth color. And the way I might introduce that to the patient, Kevin, if you were my patient and I was the hygienist, I might say something like this. Kevin, I'm going to do something a little different at the beginning of this hygiene appointment. I'm going to start by taking a shade match of your current tooth color. The reason we do this is we now know that whitening or tooth color changes over time. Tooth color tends to darken over time. I'm simply going to take that so we have it for our records today. Then it becomes a very easy way to show the patient on a shade guide where their current tooth color is in comparison to where it could be. And it creates a very natural icebreaker or conversation starter with the patient. Tip number 2, take a shade match at the start of the hygiene appointment. Tip number 3, I want to encourage our viewers to consider value pricing whitening. Kevin, I'm not a big fan of giving away whitening. I see that sometimes in promotions as I'm noticing what dentists are doing around the country where it's free whitening to new patients. I'm not a big fan of that because my experience has been that if patients don't pay for it, they don't have a value associated with it. However, I do like the idea of value pricing it. Price it so it's profitable in your practice. But in my own practice, we like to think of, although we do make a profit from whitening, our real benefit comes from the restorative and elective dentistry that comes about by initiating the process of whitening with patients. So very often, 6 months later, our patients will say to Dr. Nielsen, I love the color of my teeth now, but what about this? What about this? What about this? And it becomes a wonderful gateway service. So consider value pricing it. And we'll leave it to the viewers to determine what that is in their community, but consider value pricing it to make it more accessible and more affordable for patients. Tip number 4, and I love this one, Kevin, I want to encourage our viewers to offer lifetime whitening. Now let me explain what that means, Kevin. We offer a chairside whitening solution, and we also offer take-home trays. In both of those cases, we're making custom trays for our patients. So by offering lifetime whitening, what we do is we provide free touch-up gel to our whitening patients as long as they keep the recommended hygiene appointments. As long as they keep the recommended, notice I said recommended hygiene appointments. I didn't say every 6 months because some patients may be on a different cycle. But as long as, Kevin, if you were my patient, as long as you keep your recommended hygiene appointments, you're going to get free touch-up gel. We either give them a 1 syringe or 2 syringes depending on their food habits. And it's just a great way to allow patients to touch up and whiten, enhance their whitening. But it's also a great way to motivate people to keep their hygiene appointments. I have clients that tell me that they have noticed that they save 5, 6, 7 hygiene cancellations a week by reminding patients that if they keep their appointments, they get free whitening gel. It's a great way to maintain a positive relationship about keeping those hygiene appointments. And my last tip, tip number 5, is develop a culture of getting started today. I have clients that pick up 2 to 3 chairside whitening procedures a week in their practice. If you were the hygiene patient and you showed interest in that, we might say to you, Kevin, I don't know if this would work for you, but if you could stay after your hygiene appointment, we could actually provide chairside whitening for you today. You can leave here with a whiter, brighter smile today. And if it doesn't work for you, I can say, we found that whitening works best when it follows a professional cleaning. So at least you're going to be motivated to want to get it done soon. If we're offering take-home trays, we can at least get started by taking an impression today. They can come back and pick up their trays later, but get started today while the patient interest is there.
It's 5 great tips, Gary. I mean, I really appreciate it. Whenever you and I first talked about this in Phoenix, I thought, wow, what great ideas to share with our viewers, and I really do appreciate you doing that.
Well, Kevin, it's my pleasure, and pardon my passion around whitening, but this is something that every practice can use to not only grow the whitening component of their practice, but to grow their practice. As I'll bring it back full circle, we found that patients who whiten their teeth simply become better patients.
Well, and you mentioned passion, and I mean, anybody that knows you, they relate that term to you very easily. But I know one of your passions is your podcast that you do, the Thriving Dentist Show, and I've been fortunate enough to be a guest on there in the past. Just give our viewers a quick overview of what that is and where they can find it, if you don't mind.
You bet. Thriving Dentist Show is an internet radio show, Kevin. I produce that every week. It airs on Wednesday. I use an interview format where I interview authorities in dentistry, people like yourself, and we talk about whatever the area of interest and passion is of my guest. It's about 45 to 50 minutes long. It airs every Wednesday. It's absolutely free. Our viewers can find that on iTunes. If you just go to iTunes and click the tab podcast, type in Thriving Dentist Show, they can subscribe to it. It's absolutely free. Or they can go to my website and download it free off of my website. The website is Takacs, my last name, Takacs, learningcenter.com.
Gary, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you, my friend, and thanks so much for joining me this morning. I really do appreciate it.
Kevin, it's been my pleasure. I'm sure we'll see each other again soon coming up at a dental meeting somewhere. I look forward to that.
Same here, my friend. Take care.